Good morning, everybody. Welcome along. Welcome to the Norisring. We are getting ready for round 4 of the season for the 2024 season for DTM. And after this weekend, we will be at the halfway point of the season. And what a way to do it. We are celebrating the 40th season of the DTM here this weekend at the mighty Norisring. We are in the streets of Nuremberg. We are expecting a big crowd here this weekend. The weather conditions are pretty good. We had a lot of rain yesterday, but it's dried up. It's a little bit overcast. We're not expecting any more rain today. And this is the first of 2 free practice sessions. We say hello to all of the spectators that are already piling into this wonderful venue here in the streets of Nuremberg. It is 19.3 degrees centigrade and rising. We have memories to this time last year where it was somewhere in the 30s, if I remember rightly. So a little bit more bearable this year under the slightly cloudy skies, but perfect for a spot of DTM racing. It was at the beginning of July, no, it wasn't. It was at the beginning of June that we last saw the DTM, and that was at Zandvoort, and we saw a win for Jack Aitken, the only driver this season to have taken 2 wins in the DTM. Once again showing how competitive this series is, but it was in race 2 where Marco Wittmann, the driver who is local to this circuit, he comes from Wörth, which is just down the road from here, he won the last race at Zandvoort, and what a dramatic race it was. We saw him getting together with Mirko Bortolotti, the car falling apart somewhat, and what remained of the BMW crossed the line in first place. He had smoke pouring from it at one point with the bodywork making contact with the tyre, and we did wonder whether he was going to make it to the end, but he did, and he took his first victory in a long time, and he will be on the crest of a wave as he comes to his home track here at the Norisring. We're getting ready for the first of 2 free practice sessions. This one, which is about to commence in just a couple of minutes, another one this afternoon. Free practice, which is normally just an opportunity for drivers to get a setup and get a feel for things, but it's all a little bit different this weekend because free practice will be playing more of a significant part in the weekend's proceedings. It is a very small circuit. It is just 2.162 kilometers around, and that is with 5 turns, 3 to the left and 1 to the right. But the drivers, if we want to get them all out on track for qualifying at the same time, it would be a little bit tight. So we're going to be dividing them into 2 groups for qualifying, which takes place tomorrow morning. And those 2 groups are going to be decided by the free practice today. Let's take a look at the points quickly. It's Kelvin van der Linde who's at the top of the point standings, just 8 points clear of Mirko Bortolotti. And he was looking very confident when I spoke to him yesterday, and he said, as long as it doesn't rain, I'm feeling pretty confident around here. His teammate Ricardo Feller is in 3rd place, 16 points adrift. Thomas Preining, the defending champion, is in 4th place, 19 points back, and Arjun Maini, 20 points back, with Mauro Engel in 6th place. He is 22 points back. And it's interesting with Jack Aitken, who is the only driver who has won 2 races this year, but is back in 7th place, some 23 points adrift. And it shows you that consistency rather than race wins is what is important. You can see also the champion from 2022, Kelvin van der Linde, is also tied with Jack Aitken on points in that 7th and 8th place. But it isn't just race wins that's going to win a championship. It is consistency across all of the sessions, including qualifying. Of course, qualifying will be very important here. Points are paid in qualifying, 3 for pole position, 2 and 1 for 2nd and 3rd on the grid. So for this free practice session, the cars, well, the times from both FP1 and FP2 will be combined, and the fastest of those times will determine what group the drivers go in. So the fastest car of the combined times will be in Group 1, as will be the case for the third fastest, the fifth, the seventh, the ninth, and so on. So the odd-numbered cars will go into Group 1, and then Group 2 will be made up of the second, fourth, sixth, eighth, and so on fastest in the free practice sessions. And then tomorrow morning, when we have qualifying for race 1, Group 1 will go first, and Group 2 will go second. The fastest car from either of those groups will start on pole position. The remainder of that group will line up behind them. And then on Sunday, for the qualifying session, things will be reversed. So Group 2 will go first and Group 1 will go second. Of course, the track, if it stays dry, will get quicker and quicker as this weekend progresses, as more and more rubber gets laid down. So many would say that going in the second group in the qualifying would give you the advantage, and that is why we have the group system. And those that go in Group 2 for tomorrow's qualifying will go first on Sunday, if that makes sense. Right, we have 55 minutes of free practice. Our regular commentator, Chris Hartley, well, he's at some event at Silverstone this weekend. Joined this weekend instead by an old friend from the past who is like a kid in the toy shop this weekend, because as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of DTM, there is so much classic material here in the paddock. I say good morning, Adam Weller. You are loving this, aren't you?
What an incredible opportunity to be here at the Norisring for an event that has been taking place since 1967, predating DTM, the Norisring Trophy event. This circuit, the most unique in German motorsport, even including Nordschleifer, I would argue. That's a bold claim. Delighted to be here, Brian, and what a season it's been so far. I've been watching on from home, keeping an eye on things, and you were talking about Jack Aitken and how victories matter, but so do consistent finishes. Aitken and van der Linde both on 59 points tells that story to a T. Van der Linde has 59 points in spite of no podiums. Aitken has 59 points with 2 victories. Consistency is key, but good results are too. One of them's lacking the good results, one of them's lacking the consistency.
Yes, and that consistency is all going to come to play at the end of the season, isn't it? And just being there, we saw it last year. I mean, Thomas Preining, yes, he won many races, but he scored in every race. And in fact, Thomas Preining currently aims to continue his run of 22 consecutive points finishes. He's the only driver to have done that, and he'll be looking to continue that this weekend. I hope we haven't just put the curse on him. And that just backs up what we're saying here, that it's consistency. Thomas Preining, who is looking to defend his championship in the DTM. He won it last year with style in the Manthey EMA Porsche. Porsche's looking very dialed in here at this circuit, normally considered to be the kind of car that works very well, a fairly short wheelbase, the engine in the rear, and we saw that backed up. I was looking at the GT4 times just before this, and the top 5 in their free practice were all Porsches. So Porsche potentially going to be very strong this weekend. There is, of course, the balance of performance, and we've had a number of changes since Zandvoort, some of them quite significant. The Audi has been able to unload 25 kilos, so they are now at 1,300 kilograms compared to where they were at Zandvoort. The BMW has 20 kilos added, taking them up to 1,320, but they've also had a boost change, so their maximum boost is now 2.67 bar. It was 2.73. The Ferraris are allowed to unload 15 kilograms from Zandvoort, and the Lamborghinis are allowed to unload 20 kilograms. McLaren's got 5 kilograms taken off. The Mercedes have got a 15 kilograms plus, and they've also had a change in the size of the engine restrictors to 36 millimeters, and the Porsches remaining the same from Zandvoort. So the BoP, once again, the ADAC working hard to make sure the cars are as evenly balanced as is possible here at Zandvoort.
Yes, great efforts from everyone involved in the BoP process. Such different cars, of course. The engine architecture, the philosophy of the cars, also different. We're looking at a 5.2-litre V10. If you were looking at BMW, you'd be looking at a front engine 3-litre 6-cylinder unit. 2 very different cars that we managed to balance together. Riding on board with Kelvin van der Linde, then down to the first corner at the moment. Got to be so careful about that braking zone into turn 1, the first of the 2 hairpins here. We've been speaking to people in the paddock across all categories, and the consensus is, well, yes, it's all well and good for now, but wait until we get into the races and we try and get all those cars into the hairpins. That applies to DTM, that applies to ADAC GT4, even the new Next Gen Cup that's going to be on the support bill here this weekend. The hairpins always create jeopardy.
Yes, and those walls are incredibly close. Of course, it is the only street circuit in Germany, and it's something that many of these drivers, well, they don't experience it in many other places. Certainly Ben Durr, who's in the field this weekend, it's the first time he will be racing on a street circuit. It is so short. It's as close to an oval as you're ever going to get for DTM. Effectively 2 hairpins joined by a couple of straights with a chicane thrown in just for good measure. We're looking at Ricardo Feller. You can see that he's purple in Sector 1. We're expecting the times to come down significantly. The lap record around here was set by Liam Lawson back in 2021 in qualifying. That was a 48.622. It's going to take me the whole weekend to get used to not saying 1 point something. Yes, it is a lap, but that is a little over 3/4 of a minute. That's how short this circuit is. That's why qualifying tomorrow morning and on Sunday is needing to be done in 2 sections. So we're going to be looking at the times coming down to the high 40s potentially. The track, well, they were still finishing it off yesterday, so an awful lot of work has gone in to getting this place put together, and as the rubber goes down, as long as the rain stays off, the track is going to get faster and faster. And we do have to say thank you to the Motorsport Club of Nuremberg, who convert these public roads between the Zeppenfeld and the Dutzendijk into this wonderful race circuit. About 6 volunteers, 600, no, if only it was 600 volunteers have put in around 10,000 hours over the last couple of weeks for setup, and they're going to put another long shift in over the next week, putting it all away again. They've put in 5 kilometers of triple crash barriers, 5 kilometers of safety fences, 1 kilometer of mobile concrete crash barriers, 110 6-packs, that's the tyre bundles, 3 kilometers of water and sewage pipes, over 5 kilometers of power cables, additional seating for 25,000 spectators, and 12 kilometers of construction fencing around the site. It is a massive operation to put this together for this DTM event as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the DTM.
Interesting to see the BMW then of René Rast on the go. Rast in at the 33 Schubert BMW. Of course, the BMWs, I feel, are going to be strong here. Typically, the BMW is very much a straight line speed car. Those of you with long memories of the ADAC GT Masters will remember how good they were at circuits like the Red Bull Ring, which is predominantly stop and go, much like this. Of course, the BOPs change significantly over the course of a good couple of years and 2 different series, so we'll see how that translates. Marco Wittmann in another of the BMWs, and of course, I think he might be sleeping in his own bed this weekend.
Yes, we're not implying that he sleeps in somebody else's bed the rest of the time, but Marco Wittmann, who is from Wörth, just down the road, as we've mentioned already, and he was, well, he ended a drought of about 1.5 years of race wins last time out at Zandvoort, and as we mentioned, in that green and white BMW, and it was such a popular win, and it was something that you kind of see in a movie, with the smoke pouring from the car and shedding bits of bodywork, and still he won the race, and it kind of went some way to making up for the disaster at Oschersleben, where he was leading in the closing stages of the race and the fuel pump backed up on the car and he was unable to finish, and there was a sense of, well, you know, if you believe in karma, then maybe that's it. There's Sheldon van der Linde, that's his teammate, of course, the 3 Shubert Motorsport BMWs, the only BMWs in the field, and all of them are former champions. We have René Rast, who is a 3-time champion, Sheldon van der Linde, a 1-time champion, and Marco Wittmann, a 2-time champion. So those 3 cars account for 6 championships, which is absolutely phenomenal. So we've got high expectations for Shubert Motorsport. They have not failed on that yet. This is the ultimate test, and Sheldon van der Linde, who won around the streets of Nuremberg this time last year, he has said that if he wins this weekend, he is going to jump into the Dutzendijk Lake. So, going to be interested to see that happen.
Yeah, Sunday's the coolest day as well. I don't know how I feel about that on his behalf. Bit deep there into the first hairpin. Had to avoid both of the McLarens coming out onto the circuit. Circling back to Marco Wittmann, though, while we're looking at the BMWs, I feel like his season has been a lot more promising than his 11th in the point standings currently behooves. You mentioned, of course, Oschersleben. He lost 25 points there. He's 32 points off the championship lead. So I think that without that, he would be right up there in the conversation at this moment in time. And I also think there's a fire lit under him this year.
Yeah.
13th in the standings in 2023, the only year since he debuted in DTM that he was outside the top 10 in the points at the end of the year. He takes pride in his status in DTM. He's one of the kind of new legends of DTM, one of the 2010s into early 2020s legends of this championship, and he will be determined to show that he can still do it this year, which he's definitely done so far.
And it is the Shubert Motorsport BMWs that are featuring at the top of the timing sheets at the moment. Marco Wittmann in 6th, Sheldon van der Linden in 3rd, and Rene Rast. Remember that battle with him and Thomas Preining here last year? There was some proper elbows out racing going on at the move into the Grundig turn 1. But the quickest man at the moment, Kelvin van der Linde, at 49.758. So we're starting to see some competitive times coming out. As we've already mentioned, free practice a little bit more significant because it will determine what order they qualify in, and with the weather forecast potentially a little bit mixed over the weekend, it could actually have a significant play out on one or if not both of the races.
This was the exact thought that I was having, actually. I remember the days of the arms race between Audi and Mercedes in the DTM, where it seemed as if both were going to the most extreme measures anywhere in motorsport to get that little edge. And my first thought this weekend, looking at that forecast, looking at this weekend's qualifying format, is there's going to be someone in the back of the truck demanding that they finish in 1st, 3rd, 5th or 7th, or 2nd, 4th, 6th or 8th, based on the format with the split for groups 1 and 2. Absolutely, I suspect there is someone doing that, and that's the novelty of motorsport, isn't it? It's a science, but it's a science with far too many wildcard factors to ever really predict.
Yes, and the problem is it's a very moving goalpost, if that's not to mix the metaphors. A moving target, changing goalposts, and so it's very hard to fix this one, but the teams will be thinking in overtime as we look at Nicky Tim, currently jumping up into P3. He was a purple in Sector 1 just now, and we say massive congratulations to him. He won the Spa 24-hour race. Does that Mirko Porter? No, that was Nicky Tim going very wide out of the corner. That was out of turn 1, the Grundig turn. We saw him kissing the barrier. Well, that wasn't so much a kiss as a full-on snog of the barriers, but Nicky Tim using all of the track and a little bit more as we congratulate him on that win in the Spa 24-hour race, surviving against the odds and against the elements, and he was so emotional after that win. Great to see, following very much in the footsteps of his old man as a winner in GT3 racing, and very much on the crest of the wave as well. And you look at the drivers currently at the top of the time screens. Well, our championship leader, Kelvin van der Linde, at the top, 49.758. Three-time champion Rene Rast in second at 49.779, and the Spa 24 winner Nicky Tim in third place at 49.840. And fourth, Lucas Auer didn't have the best of times in the end at Spa last weekend, having shown so much promise. Then in fifth place, Sheldon van der Linde. Einchen Nguyen there as well in sixth place. Now, in amongst the parish notices, we have failed to mention that we have a returning driver on the grid for this weekend. We welcome back Franck Pereira, the super sub, as we're going to start calling him, because the last time he was here substituting, it was for Rolf van Eiken a couple of years ago. This time around, it was Rolf van Eiken was ill a couple of years ago, and he jumped in, Franck Pereira did, and subbed for him here at the Norisring. Then, of course, last year, Franck Pereira did a full season in the DTM. This year, he hasn't, but he's back here again this weekend. He's subbing for Christian Engelhardt, who's had to have a knee operation. He injured himself over the winter, and we say get well soon, Christian. Looking forward to seeing you back, and good luck to Franck Pereira as he returns back to the DTM.
Yeah, responsible thinking, I think, from Christian. He was clearly hobbling about a bit this year. That much was obvious to see. There's a term in combat sports that you have to gut out injuries, you know, work through it. But when you're piloting race cars at 260 kilometers an hour, you can't be doing things like that. And I think he realized there was that little pain threshold that was giving him grief this year. We look forward to welcoming him back, though. He's a toughie, is Christian Engelhardt, and he'll be back and fighting before long. Franck Pereira, though, definitely something of an X factor to bring into the lineup for this weekend, isn't it? It's going to be very intriguing to see how he beds into the field.
While we've been doing that, René Rast has jumped to the top in the Shubert Motorsport BMW of 49.512. Still about a second off the lap record, but as we've said already, it's a very green track at the moment. We've had a GT4 free practice session. We've had the DTM Classics as well. Look like Thomas Preining rehearsing his moves into turn one, going to the inside of the Grasser Lamborghini. But yes, so the rubber is starting to go down, and we would expect the times to come tumbling as this weekend progresses. We are in the streets of Nuremberg as we head towards the halfway point of the 2024 season for the DTM, and we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of this legendary series, and it is absolutely wonderful. They look spectacular around the streets of Nuremberg here this weekend, and we're expecting some really good racing. So, as already mentioned, it's public roads, the Zeppelinstrasse and the Buethner Strait. Now, I probably completely mispronounced that, and I will be corrected on that later.
Not by me.
But running up against the barriers, it has been nicknamed the Franconian Monaco, and you can see why. Overtaking, not always easy, and there's some proper elbows out racing that you need to do around here. I walked around the circuit yesterday. It's very wide, but it's very narrow around those hairpins, isn't it?
That's the thing. Yes, I agree with the comparison to Monaco, but this corner here, turn 4, the final hairpin of the circuit, I would contest that wall on the exit with the Liqui Moly banners, that is the German Wall of Champions. That is what that corner is to Norisring, is what the Wall of Champions is to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We've seen so many drivers, the best in the game, deflect off that wall over the years. I seem to remember Bernd Schneider and Mika Hakkinen having a moment there one year back in the day as well. That hairpin often the cause of a few discussions in the paddock in the immediate aftermath of these races. Obviously, we are celebrating 40 years of DTM this season, and this is one of the circuits that was on the calendar back in 1984. And even beyond the DTM Classics that you've mentioned out there on the circuit, we've got some incredible machinery on display. I was in the hospitality earlier on and couldn't help but notice that Bernd Schneider's 2000 car was just under a 10. Oh my goodness! You know, it's a proper smorgasbord of historic DTM machinery this weekend. And of course, also because we're 1 week removed from the Spa 24 Hours, you and I were walking through the paddock yesterday and saw one of the cars from the Grasser outfit. Of course, GRT running 2 of the Lamborghinis here this weekend, but one of their Spa 24-hour fresh cars, about as unfresh as a GT3 car can get, as a matter of fact, complete with all of the tyres, all of the bugs, everything that came off the Spa 24-hour truck with. It was very interesting to see that.
Well, they clearly come straight from Spa to here. Talking of 24-hour races, we also say congratulations to Manthey EMA, who won in Le Mans just a couple of weeks ago. That was since our last DTM round as well. So not only have we seen a Spa winner, we've also seen a Le Mans winner. We've already said congratulations for Ricardo Feller's win at the Nürburgring 24. That was a few weeks ago. It feels like ancient history now. As Thomas Preining, you can see him just adjusting the braking going into the corner, the back end just snaking a little bit, riding on board with him with that little picture on the inset as well. You get a real idea of how hard they're having to work the wheel. But Manthey EMA winning in Le Mans. more. That was another emotional moment, and a special congratulations to Norisring, who we often have seen on the ADAC package. He was in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. He's one of the drivers who won. That was certainly very emotional for his family as well at Le Mans. We're riding with Nicky Tim. Well, we're looking at him now as he comes across the line. He's been purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2, which means it was a personal best of anybody in Sector 1. Not so much in Sector 3. Sectors that last 15 and 18 seconds in the blink of an eye. See how much lock he's got on going around the hairpin, which is turn 1. But Nicky Tim, you get the feeling that last weekend's success at Spa has kind of put a proverbial rocket up the proverbial jacksie, really, because he is a man who is really pushing hard. You see the McLaren, that's a new discipline for McLaren now. My walking, talking encyclopedia alongside me, McLaren, has there ever been a McLaren round at the Norisring before?
McLaren win in 1971, back when it was the Inter Series as opposed to a DTM event. DTM was but a spectre long into the future of German motorsport at that time. Of course, this is the first full season for a McLaren entry in the DTM. Of the manufacturers that are here today that have previously raced at the Norisring, the only one to have not won here is Lamborghini. So not only is Nicky T feeling the buoyancy from his Spa victory, I suspect there is also an element to the manufacturer saying, we really need to get onto that Norisring winners list, guys. Let's see what we can do.
No pressure then at all, is there? You just saw Kelvin van der Linde on board with him, going to the inside of the McLaren. Of course, Motorsport, who have come into DTM this year, the first McLaren to feature in the series, as already confirmed by my esteemed colleague alongside me. But they are learning performance pit stops, and of course in DTM, performance pit stops are everything within the race because there has to be a tyre change, and there has never been a performance pit stop for a McLaren. There's no series where McLarens do a performance pit stop, so it's a new discipline for Shubert Motorsport and with the McLaren, and they're learning it. They recognise it's a possible area that they need to improve as Kelvin van der Linde peels off into the pits. And Clemens Schmidt at Zandvoort in race 1, he believes that the 11-second pit stop they made cost him a podium, but it's a learning curve. It has been wonderful to see McLaren on the grid. Great to see Shubert Motorsport on the grid. Of course, we were very prolific in ADAC GT4. Great to see Clemens Schmid and Ben Durr. And anybody who thought Ben Durr was here to make up the numbers are very much mistaken, because he's come into DTM and it's a steep learning curve for him. As we look at race control, they are all looking at images of what's going on. They look terribly excited and probably keeping up on the British-UK elections, I should think. So they have got a view on every aspect of this track, and because it's a street circuit, don't think they haven't got a camera at every angle. I walked around yesterday, there are cameras everywhere.
There really are. I also want to say that one of our esteemed colleagues there in race control had the original Hockenheim ring on their laptop as a map outline. Very good. Appreciate that immensely. We ride on board then with Ian Miney in the Team HRT Mercedes, the Haupt Racing Team outfit. HRT have gone great guns so far this year, of course, in both DTM and indeed in the ADAC GT Masters, all ADAC GT3 series featuring some form of Mercedes Armada from the Haupt stable. And of course, Miney secured the first ever podium of his DTM career here at the Norisring back in 2021. Oh, goodness me, straight on at the first hairpin. That was the first podium of his career. That was the first ever Indian driver podium. Of course, he is the first Indian racer to ever take part in DTM. This place means a lot to him. This is a place where the Mercedes typically do well. Maybe he can be on for more podiums and even greater successes this weekend.
Yes, he's really found his mojo this year, it has to be said, and we saw him at Zandvoort a few weeks ago taking a podium there as well. So certainly a man who's really, I would say last year, perhaps a little bit in the doldrums, and he looked and sounded a bit frustrated at times, but certainly finding his mojo. Perhaps lost a little bit and left a bit of his mojo behind on turn 1 there, I should think. Go back in for a little lie down after that moment. One of the things I noticed yesterday walking around the circuit was the change in surfaces. Because these are public roads, white lines, tarmac, drains, all sorts of bumps and cracks, also curbstones. There you can see it there on the left-hand side of your picture. You see they go up on that curb. That's that is a proper pavement, and they bump up on that curb, and I thought, surely you're going to be vulnerable to punctures. Well, clearly not, because we just saw the BMW climbing up onto the pavement and going up against the wall. But the drivers don't only have to deal with the barriers, which are insanely close, they have to deal with this changing surface. It's not like your Nürburgrings or your Zandvoorts or whatever. It is an ever-changing surface, an ever-changing picture. All we need is a bit of rain. No, we don't need that. But everything that's been thrown at them, and it's going to make it, you know, even more random. So it really is a challenge for these drivers. And again, I just say, I believe, I didn't actually research this before I came here, but I think Ben Durr, I think, is the only driver to have not raced here before. And so that is an especially steep learning curve for him. So the fact that he is just 1.6 seconds off the fastest time, well, I say hats off, to be quite honest, because frankly, I wouldn't want to ride a bicycle around here, never mind drive a GT3.
No, it's something, isn't it? That turn 3 exit you were referring to, with that concrete surface on corner exit of the racing line, that was the place where you'd always see the posh camera back in the day. These days, of course, all of these cameras are able to do 4K and a bajillion frames per second. But back in the day, that was where the slow-mo camera was, exit of turn 3, because that's where you'd get the sparks, that's where you'd see the cars bottoming out, and frankly, that's where you'd see the cars often gain some concrete stripes on their door. But nowadays, it's still very much the case that that is the beauty spot. That's the place where all the photographers are. Look at them,
yes,
lined up by the dozen on the exit of turn 3. You've really got to fight your way to the photography area there.
I was talking to the man who is responsible for bringing us the wonderful pictures in DTM, and he does phenomenal jobs. He places cameras in places you really would never place cameras normally, and he's teasing me that tomorrow there may be some interesting camera placements, so tune in for tomorrow's race, because I think the camera crews are going to be out putting cameras even closer to the cars. Let's have some team radio. We're listening to Sheldon van der Linde coming into the pits.
On the way to listen to Fox.
Okay, copy. So no improvement there? Question?
Yeah, it improved, but we need another step. Fox.
Okay, copy that then, box.
Well, he says he needs to improve. He is about 500ths short of the fastest time, which is currently held by his teammate René Rast, a 49.512 for Rast, a 49.565 for Sheldon van der Linde. So not too far off, are they?
No, he was talking specifically there about turn 2, where we saw him break traction on a replay just a couple of moments ago. So I think he feels that the rear end isn't quite compliant enough through that corner, and obviously it is an important turn to get right, because if you go sideways at 2, or maybe too far then to the inside at turn 3, that's the better part of a second taken out of your lap time. So that's going to be really important, that you've got a compliant rear end at turn 2. I thought we were going to lose an Audi wing mirror there. He was approaching the wall with a level of confidence I frankly don't possess. That is Kelvin van der Linde, so what can we expect? He knows this Audi like the back of his hand, of course. And yes, it's a winch-worthy camera position, isn't it?
If you can see me now, I'm actually huddled behind a chair, peering out, looking at the screen. That's how scary this is. You say the wall of champions. I think it's the wall of wing mirrors, really. We're riding on board with Kelvin van der Linde at the moment, extracting all that he can out of the circuit. So he's the fastest of the Audis in 6th place, 49.758. Yeah, you talked about maybe losing a 10th around here, or even losing a second around here. That is a massive amount when you've got a lap time, which is at the moment 49.5 seconds. It really is down to the absolute thousandths, maybe even more than that, to tune everything into the car, get the most out of the lap. Kelvin van der Linde, well, the green means he's done a personal best in Sector 1. That's a 18.518 compared to an 18.389, which is the fastest of all that was set by Nicky Tim. Another personal best in Sector 2, 15.283. So he's looking good, potentially to improve on his P6. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get him to the top. I'm normally wrong when I say it isn't, so I'm going to hold what I'm going to say for another couple of seconds. Now he's up to P4. I chatted to Kelvin yesterday. He said, really looking forward to it, but I don't want the rain. And I think that's probably what everybody's thinking. Fingers crossed, the forecast is looking okay for the weekend. We are expecting some rain tomorrow, but not until later in the day. So we're hoping for some dry racing, because This circuit is pretty challenging. You can see the crowds are starting to pour in. We had 102,000 people here watching last year. We're expecting something in the region of 120,000 people here at the Norisring this weekend. It's Friday at the moment. It's only going to get busier. They are being thoroughly entertained as we look at free practice 1 for round 4 of the season for the mighty DTM here in the streets of Nuremberg.
You're talking there about the possibility of rain and how no one wants it. I would contest that actually over at the Porsche camp, over at Manthey, they might want the rain because obviously rear-engined car, the one thing that it does right in the rain or in any conditions is traction out of low-speed corners because of that weight on the rear axle. If it rains, that weight on the rear axle will be absolutely fabulous for them versus the competition out of turn 1, out of turn 4. Yes, it's a rear-engine car, which means it'll snap quicker than most of the other cars out there, but I do think that traction advantage is one that they would quite like to use in the wet conditions.
Any rain-sodden spectators who want to come and have a word with Adam Weller in the TV compound, feel free. Right, Marco Wittmann's done a couple of personal bests. So the local hero who has a massive fan club, well, P7 at the moment. So he's jumped up a bit, 49.751. A little over 2 tenths slower than the fastest time is René Rast. You saw in his previous lap, he did a purple in Sector 2, but hasn't improved in Sectors 1 and 3. But he is continuing to press on. The BMWs at the moment, first showing, starting to look like the strongest cars here at the moment. It's René Rast who's quickest in the BMW. Nicky Tim, well, he'll be looking for his best qualifying, his second fastest in free practice. So there's certainly the pace is there in the SSR Lamborghini. Shubert van der Linde in a BMW in 3rd place, another Shubert Motorsport. Then the quickest Audi, Kelvin van der Linde in 4th, ahead of Frank Pereira. So Christian Engelhardt will be looking on going, I could do with some of that. He'll be watching this as he recovers. Lucas Auer in the Mercedes, the fastest of the Mercedes in P6, ahead of Marco Wittmann, another BMW in P7. Defending champion Thomas Preining in 8th place at the moment in the Porsche. Then Maro Engel in the Mercedes, ahead of Einchen Nguyen, who rounds out the top 10. He's in a Porsche. Then we have Lucas Stolz, Luca Engsler. Good to see him up into P12. And on the note of Luca Engsler, we did see a little incident coming into the pits at Zandvoort where there was a connection made with one of the team in the Grasser Racing pit lane. And certainly wasn't Luca Engsler's fault. He's spent a lot of time feeling guilty about it, and he even went to visit Noah, who's in hospital, who did break his ankle. And we just want to say get well soon, Noah. And Luca Engsler, you know, such a quality guy that he is, just apologise even though it wasn't his fault. And we say get well soon, Noah. Hope to see you back in the pit lane soon, and hope Luca Engsler can score a nice big bag load of points to celebrate you during this weekend. We're carrying on with René Rast, the 3-times champion. Well, he had a year to get used to the BMW, having switched from Audi. He's done that now. He's really turning the heat up this year. René Rast has looked like a man on a mission all year. It's currently BMW 1 and 2 because Sheldon van der Linde has jumped up into P2 at 49.544.
Speaking of Luca Engsler, of course, he's one of a few drivers that is transitioning between cars depending on what championship he's running. Of course, he's running the Lamborghini here with the Liquimoli by GRT outfit. And then for his father's team in GT World Challenge, he's still running in an Audi. Now, broadly similar architecture there, 5.2 litre V10 mid-engine, but of course they are different cars, definitely different machinery. The Lamborghini Squadra Corsa outfit is responsible for the development of the Lamborghini, Audi Sport Customer Racing responsible for the Audi. So he is having to kind of take these FP1 sessions in the DTM paddock or in the World Challenge paddock as a bit of a, right, let's just remember which of them I'm in. They sound the same, but they are different.
Yes, and it's quite a discipline to change. Well, you saw there 2 purples from René Rast. He's improved. It wasn't anything improving in Sector 3, but Sector 1 and 2, that's improved into 49.363. So good job from René Rast. But yes, Luca Engsler, being adaptable is definitely one of the issues. You've also got the same with Kelvin van der Linde, who drives all manner of different machinery throughout the season, and has also been in Formula E as well. And the managing director, Thomas Biermeier at Abt Racing, has said that Formula E has helped Kelvin van der Linde progress both personally and as a driver, because in Formula E, it's very data focused, it's less about feelings, and that's really helped him, he believes, in all of his other disciplines that he takes part in. So Kelvin van der Linde having to be adaptable, as well as we see René Rast peeling off into the pits.
Now,
one moment, Team Radio, here's Mirko Bortolotti on the blower.
So Mirko, just for your info, mid-corner speeds, we look everywhere better than Nicky. We just have an issue that we can't solve at the moment. Just keep it for practice, that you familiarize with the track, and we try to work on a solution.
Some work to do then, sounds like, for the SSR performance team on Bortolotti's car specifically.
It's problem in the engine, it's not driving.
Ooh, that's not what you want to hear, is it? I mean, he's down in P18 at the moment, so clearly there's some issues, but...
Yes, so obviously they've said there's clearly a disparity between himself and Nicky in terms of the car's engine. He says drive. I wonder, could even be something in the ECU potentially. It could be all manner of things. Hopefully they've got the data to diagnose before they start working on it, so they don't have to go through the diagnostic process as well as the repair. But yeah, Mirko Bortolotti certainly not on the pace. The team did tell him though, stay out there, do the track familiarization. We'll sort it out between FP1 and FP2. Now, my mission this morning has been one of statistics. As
I'm going to take a seat here.
And I'm sorry, I just want to bring this one up because of BMW's 3 of them in the top 4. Now, I struggled with sleep last night because I couldn't get to the bottom of a statistic, which was how many wins BMW had in DTM. The answer is 98 after Marco Wittmann's triumph in Zandvoort. So they are on the verge of 100 DTM victories. And, well, based on what we're seeing in FP1 right now, it could happen this weekend.
Many people were struggling to get to sleep last night because they were following the British-UK elections. Adam Weller was couldn't get to sleep last night because he was worried about how many wins that BMW had had. I fear there's a gulf between us. But it's a very significant point, and it could be we're going to see some celebrations from the BMW camp before too long. And certainly with the pace around here, well, they would very much welcome a back-to-back win. I can't remember the last time, well, I can remember the last time a team had back-to-back wins on the same weekend, because Thomas Breining did 2 in a row last year. But it is a rare feat indeed to have 2 wins on the same weekend by the same driver, or indeed the same team. I would just remind you that we have a success ballast on board these cars, not for free practice. Well, they can for free practice, but they probably haven't. Not for qualifying, but for the race. And it will be Marco Wittmann who will have an extra 20 kilos on board for his race tomorrow. Mirko Bortolotti will have an extra 10 kilos, and Kelvin van der Linde an extra 5. That's on account of the 1, 2, 3 at Zandvoort. I wonder how much difference that weight penalty would make on a circuit like this, as opposed to maybe a faster circuit. I am not technically minded. You might be able to give me some information on that front. I don't know.
I mean, it's certainly less of a factor here than it would be at somewhere like Zandvoort. Obviously, to an extent, the vehicle dynamics that are affected by weight, things like corner speed, ultimate grip in the tyre, aren't as important at a circuit like this, which is mostly stop-start, 280-degree corners and 290-degree corners. So it will still have an effect. Obviously, more weight means slower acceleration, but it will be a little bit less of a loss, I think, here versus some of the other circuits. Riding on board with Thomas Breining, and he's got radio.
I need a gap again. Where am I so slow and stuff? Because I've not out all the time. I don't know where I do.
Sounding frustrated.
Copy, copy. You just improved Sector 3. Main time loss is still Sector 1. Sector 1, still main time loss, 2/10.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's like I'm slower than before even, Sector 1.
Of course, being a street circuit, the drivers can't come and test it. And of course, this year there is a limit to testing, just 5 test days per driver during the year. But of course, this is one circuit where they can't come and work out a setup and build up on it because, of course, it's a temporary circuit. So the only data they have is whatever they had last year. And of course, this time last year, Thomas Preining was the man on a mission, but clearly struggling a little bit this year. And the circuit will no doubt have changed a bit anyway because it has to be set up. There are variations as they set it up. But yeah, clearly a bit of frustration there. And looking back through the data, of course, with the Einstein Guin out there, they will be swapping information. But Preining and Guin together on the timesheets at the moment, a 9th and a 10th. So probably both struggling with the same issues. Luca Engstler, we spoke about him, jumping up to P8. Great job from him with the Lamborghini, a 49.775. So he's about 4/10 off the fastest time by Rennie Rest at the moment.
It's very impressive just how close the field is here at the Norisring in particular, of course. And the thing is that when we go racing, there'll be potentially even less of a difference because, again, with 90-degree and 180-degree corners exclusively, things like aero wash aren't as big of a factor as they would be at somewhere like Zandvoort. And of course, down this long run past the grandstand towards the first corner, more than likely you're going to be getting a tow as well. I expect this. You made the illusion that's the closest thing to an oval. This will also be the closest thing to pack racing that we get all year. It's not a super speedway. It's not the Talladega. We do sometimes get the big one, but you know, it is going to be fabulous racing this weekend. Always love the Norisring. It's just, it's not a novelty because that implies that it's, you know, somehow less of that. It's just such a unique challenge, isn't it?
You know, we've already said it's Germany's only street circuit, but it's not like any other street circuit you will ever go to. If you have never witnessed racing at the Norisring, please stay tuned this weekend. It is going to be spectacular. The local organisation has been phenomenal. The Motorsport Club of Nuremberg who've done a great job putting this together along with the ADAC. It is a festival of motorsport this weekend. We've got ADAC GT4. We've got the next-gen minis just showing a little bit what else there is, and certainly with very much an eye on sustainability and environmental issues. The electric series really very much in the shop window this weekend. And then there is all the noise of the classic DTM as well. So a bit of something for everybody. If you're in the area, get on down here because it is a spectacular sight. I cannot put into words enough how great this looks around the streets of Nuremberg.
Yeah, obviously there's such a great sustainability push in DTM. They've always been at the forefront of initiatives in that direction. But when you take a series to a street circuit, you do have to respect the fact that effectively we are racing in quite a few people's back gardens. You see it in other street circuits, the Pau Grand Prix, for example. There's a big sustainability push there as well, a bigger shift towards using either renewable fuels or electric cars. And yeah, having things like the Next Gen Cup here this weekend showing that the DTM is certainly moving in that direction as a package. And of course, what you see every weekend here, things like the push to not have non-reusable plastics in the paddock, no bottles. It's all very good to see, and partners such as BWT, who you see with the prominent pink banners, a big part of making that happen along with the organisers as well.
Yes, and BW2 do a phenomenal job here along with the ADAC, jointly donating money to the Be Water Mission Fund, which is building wells in rural areas in the Gambia and Tanzania. So we're not just looking at cars going quickly, it really is a bigger picture. And of course, these cars all running on fuel that consists of approximately 50% renewable components developed by Shell exclusively for the ADAC. It's a really innovative fuel. It is just a step in the right direction, more to come. Know that ADAC and DTM always pushing forwards with sustainability, giving out a positive message. Just seeing on your screen there, Jack Aitken, a personal best. He's had a quiet day so far, jumping up into P11, so personal best in sectors 1 and 2. So Jack Aitken just pushing on there to remind you, at the risk of repeating myself, it is free practice. We normally say, oh, pay no attention to the times because it's only free practice, but today it really does mean something. I'm just going to recap this again. The combined times from FP1 and FP2 will be put together. The fastest car will be into Group 1, the second fastest into Group 2, the third fastest into Group 1, the fourth fastest into Group 2, so on and so forth, all the way down. For qualifying tomorrow morning, Group 1 will go first, Group 2 will go second. On Sunday, for race 2 of the weekend, it will be the reverse. Group 2 will go first, Group 1 will go second. In each of those qualifying sessions, the fastest driver in that group will start on pole position, and the fellow group members will line up behind, as we see Jack Aitken just making a bit of a challenge on Clemens Schmid coming round the Grundig turn. But it's a great way of doing it, because qualifying around here with 20 cars on the track would be something of a nightmare. So very innovative, good way of doing it, and also gives us something a little bit varied to talk about as well. Looking at Thierry Vermeulen, he had a good time last time out of Zandvoort, his home race in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. Got a 4th place in race 2. Get the feeling that podium is not too far off.
No, I think you're quite right. Obviously, that was his best ever DTM finish, the run at Zandvoort, the P4 finish, and momentum is everything. I think there's no one on this grid that can't do it, but there's proving to yourself that you can. That's two very different things. It's the psychological hurdle. Remember when Jenson Button finally won a Grand Prix, and he was so relieved to say, okay, I've done it now, I can prove to myself that I can do it. And that's the racing driver mentality. As soon as you've shown yourself that it's possible, suddenly it all starts to come together. And I wouldn't mind betting we see more and more of Thierry Vermeulen in the top 10 as the years roll on here in DTM. Marco Wittmann then 5th fastest, which means he's been leapfrogged by the fastest of the Audis. Kelvin van der Linde has just gone 4th quickest out there on circuit. We ride on board with him at the moment.
So we are into, gosh, less than 9 minutes. Where has this session gone? Really exciting stuff here at the Norisring. It is still a BMW 1 and 2. René Rast, who will be looking tomorrow and on Sunday for his 27th, yes, make that 27th pole position. Will also be looking for his 27th win over this weekend, and the car looking strong for that. But Kelvin van der Linde, the quickest of the Audis in P2 for Abt Sportsline. And some interesting interviews with Hans-Jürgen Abt this week. He was talking about his 25-year relationship with Audi, and how he's kind of just willing on Audi to really get a little bit more involved in the GT3 program. Very much mourning their reduction in involvement, and certainly proving there's life in the old dog yet, because Kelvin van der Linde in that P2, teammate Ricardo Fellow, car number 7 in P7 as well.
And if there's anybody that's going to hoist the 4-ringed flag, regardless of factory support, it's going to be the Abt team. It's going to be Abt Sportline. Lest we forget that when DTM relaunched in 2000, the Audi representation was completely non-factory. It was Abt with the Audi TTs. That first year was a real struggle for them up against the factory outfits from Opel, from Mercedes. By 2002, however, they developed a championship-winning car, and a car that won right here at the Norisring that season with Laurent Aiello. He will keep going with the Audi brand, I'm sure. Yes, although we've seen Abt in the Lamborghini in other disciplines as well. So certainly got one eye on the other side of the fence as well. We're looking at Jack Aitken, once again, the only driver to have won more than one race this year. 14th place in the times at the moment. Now it could be they're working on setup, just scrubbing in tyres, getting things together here for this free practice session, and the real truth will come when quali starts tomorrow, as we just see Franck Pereira absolutely hustling the gold and black Lamborghini from Team TGI by GRT Grasser around the streets of Nuremberg. We were talking about the BMW, which is quickest, René
Rast. They have been notoriously slow in quali, or weak, should I say, not so slow, but weak in quali this year. And the question is it taking longer to get the tyres up to temperature? Maybe they're slower through the corners. They've not made the top 5 in any quali sessions this year. I don't know whether they've made some changes or whether this track just suits them more, but certainly BMW have very much this year, the story has been qualifying low and coming through the pack. And we certainly saw that with Marco Wittmann in Zandvoort. So I should think the Shubert Motorsport team will be very excited at the moment to see 1, 3 and 6 in the timing screens.
Well, obviously, BMW have confirmed that they're bringing out an Evo kit at the conclusion of this year, 2025. We'll see the BMW M4 GT3 Evo. Now, obviously, this isn't Formula One. You can't show up with an update package at round 4 of the season and say, look, we're half a second quicker. It's not like that here. However, some of the best drivers in the Audi stable, as Franck Pereira goes second fastest with 2 purple sectors. He hasn't forgotten how to do this. Quite the TGI Friday for that car right now.
Yeah, very good, very good. I see what you did there. I interrupted you by wowing. You were saying?
Yes, sorry, I was just to finish the BMW point. Dozens of their drivers, including, I'm sure, their Shubert Motorsport DTM lineup, will have been doing testing for the Evo kit, doing thousands of laps in an M4 GT3 car, albeit one of a slightly different spec. And you never know, you might unlock that little bit of, oh, actually, if we set up the dampers like this, it gets the heat in quicker. You do learn lessons, so maybe there's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Maybe this circuit suits them. In fact, I'm almost certain it does suit them, but also maybe some lessons are still being learned 3 years into that car's existence.
Well, we'll let you know at the next round at Nürburgring, won't we? You can see there, Kelvin van der Linde, quickest than anybody in Sector 3. You can also see the times from Max Powell up into P4, so good job by him. But Kelvin van der Linde to the top of the timing screens, 49.340 from the South African driver who now lives in Germany. The championship leader by just 8 points from Mirko Bortolotti, the quickest of anybody at the moment, at 49.340. So that is about 200ths quicker than René Rast in the BMW. From Pereira and Max Powell, great job from Max. There he is, the Powell Motorsports team, the family-run enterprise, potentially running on maybe not quite the resources of some of the bigger teams and really making it work. He got that pole position at Zandvoort, wasn't able to turn it into a podium, but Max Powell is always there or thereabouts, and you just know that another win is not too far away for the number 71 car.
Of course, remember how he came into this series, showed up on a guest weekend, took a race victory, probably the most headlines generated by a debut since maybe Paul di Resta in 2007. Very impressive first performance. Of course, as you said, Powell Motorsport not quite as huge as some of these other operations, but a very solid team, a very close-knit team. I think it said a lot, was it Oschersleben, where they had an issue in the pit lane, the front right didn't go onto the wheel properly, sorry, onto the car properly, and he was just patting the backs of his mechanics because he knows all of them personally. He's like, guys, I get it, it's okay.
Yeah, team player, although he won't thank you for reminding everybody of it.
Sorry.
And there's Jack Aitken, frustrated in P15 maybe. It seems to be kind of everything or nothing in Emil Frey at the moment in that 16th place, so clearly, well, maybe, we don't know what they're doing, whether they are just working on a setup, but certainly in 16th at the moment, on board with Ricardo Feller, car number 7 in P8 at the moment. I was about to say, well, Mirko Bortolotti hasn't got to the bottom of whatever his problem was, but he's now jumped up to 13th. Well, it's a bit better than the 18th that he was at, 49.72, so getting on for 4/10ths off the quickest time. So the number 92 car that you're looking at on your screen there, they're working it away at it in the SSR Performance Garage. Clearly, there has been an issue. Nicky Tim, though, his teammate, up in P6, and of course he was towards the very top of the timing sheets just a few minutes ago. So there clearly is pace to be had as Ricardo Feller peels off into the pit lane. P8 for him at the moment, second quickest of the Audis. Still the quickest car is Kelvin van der Linde. We've only got 90 seconds left of this FP1.
that has flown by, hasn't it? It's the spectacle of watching these cars in an environment unlike any other. You see every bounce, every bump, every challenge in that braking zone. You were speaking earlier in the session about Preining having to adjust that brake pedal going into the first corner. And of course, yes, you absolutely have to, because even with ABS, you know, the car is reacting underneath you because of these bumps. It is a one-of-one challenge. Nicky Team on a good lap here, isn't he?
Yes, he's thinking, right, we're in the last minute. Let's see what this baby can do. That is Nicky Team there. We know that's his car because it's got the orange wing mirrors. If they're still there at the end of the weekend, it'll be a miracle. He crosses the line P2, so SSR do have a setup. They need to work out what is going on with Mirko Bortolotti. Clearly an issue there, but the Viking, who won Spa 24 last week, showing that he is more than just a 24-hour racer, up into P2. Rene Rast, who was quickest for so long, into P3 at the moment. Frank Pereira guesting, replacing Christian Engelhardt for one weekend only in P4. Max Pau, solid from him in P5. Ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, Luca Engsler in 7th. Ian Chen Nguyen, Marco Wittmann, local hero, and Ricardo Fella rounding out the top 10. And there is Max Pau in the very pretty blue Lamborghini as the clock strikes 0 here at the Norisring.
Amazed that the flag's already out, but the flag is indeed waving on this session. Last chance saloon then for anybody who is on a quick lap. Doesn't look like we've got too many improvements going on at the moment, but valuable data will have been collected over the course of this session. And a valuable reminder for our regulars, Frank Pereira is one to keep an eye on this weekend. 4th position on his return to the paddock.
The super sub, Frank Pereira, is to P4. So the car's now coming in to the pits. Of course, this is the first of 2 free practice sessions. We've got another one at 4:45 local time. If you're watching in the UK, that's 3:45 this afternoon. Yeah, join us for that. It will be significant, and it will be interesting to see who can get to the top there.
Mauro Engel just going 6th fastest at the very end there. He had a very strong first sector that I think he put in immediately after I said it doesn't look like anyone's got any strong final laps going on. So Engel goes 6th fastest. He will be the first of the Mercedes on the sheet in this FP1 session. Mercedes were undefeated here from 2003 until 2015 in the DTM. Yes, there was a Audi disqualification along the way, you'll remember if you've been a long-term viewer. But that is a surprise, actually, given the long-term form book, not just in that era back in the Class 1 days, but also, lest we forget, Maxi Goertz, who this weekend is on commentary in the German box. He got a double win here in 2021 in the Mercedes. So we know these cars are strong here. Maybe we've just not seen the best of the Mercs just yet.
No, and as they say, the night is young. The rubber's starting to go down. If the rain can stay away, the track is going to get quicker, and I wager that FP2 might be a little different, but I think Kelvin van der Linde will be happy with that, 49.340 ahead of Nicky Tim. So the championship leader very much showing what he can do around here. Is Rene Rast in P3 ahead of the guesting Frank Pereira in 4th place. Then Max Pau, Mauro Engel and Sheldon van der Linde, the 2022 champion, in 7th, ahead of Luca Engsler, Ian Chen Nguyen, and the local boy Marco Wittmann rounding out the top 10 here as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the DTM around the streets of Nuremberg at the mighty Norisring. In 11th place, Ricardo Fella ahead of Thierry Vermeulen. Lucas Auer, fairly quiet session for him. Mirko Bortolotti clearly with some work to do during the lunch break ahead of Thomas Preining. Lucas Stokes, Jack Aitken, a long way back for him as well, ahead of Arjun Maini. Clemens Schmid and Ben Durr, the 2 McLarens at the back, but expect them to be moving forwards. A lot of work, a steep learning curve for Durr Motorsport, but they will get there as we look over the Dutzendijk Lake at the old Congress building. What an amazing place to have a racetrack. What an amazing place for Rene Rast to come in P3 in free practice 1 in the mighty BMW. That that is prepared by Shubert Motorsport. The Viking, Nicky Tim, in the Lamborghini Huracan for SSR Performance in second place in the timings. But it is our championship leader, Kelvin van der Linde, who leads the way in FP1. He'll be delighted with that, a 49.340 for the Sportsline Audi, sponsored by Red Bull here at the Norisring. And on board with Kelvin van der Linde, this was his quickest lap, and you can see him heading absolute full beans towards the Grundig turn, which is a turn 1, and you see how tight this is. It will be absolute full lock, heavy braking around turn 1 at about 50 kilometers an hour, first gear, then out wide towards the wall. It'll be flat out towards turn 2. The Scholar S chicane in fourth gear, 190 kilometers an hour, braking there, down to second gear, and then it's back on the power up, the Zeppelin Strasse. A little bit of a kink into this. We call it a straight because they do take it flat out. You'll hear that he doesn't lift for this one. And then up to 218 kilometers an hour, fifth gear, and then into first gear to get around turn 4. Back out along towards turn 5. Some call it a turn, some don't. He didn't seem to lift off to me, and across the line he came, and that was where his 49.340 came from. Kelvin van der Linde showing the rest of the field around the Norisring here in glorious conditions. I hope you have enjoyed free practice 1 here from the Norisring. We're going to come back and do it all again. 3:45 local time. It will be FP2. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.